Getting focus. And there. Amazing. Hey, Jazzy. Could you move? I guess we're sharing today. Hey guys, Trevor here from Mediac Productions. Y'all about to get learned up. I thought it'd be a really good idea to get away from camera techniques and cool arts and crafts and to just really step back into the science of photography. Oh, it's about to get real today. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of this is a very technical skill. It's not all just looking for the perfect frame and staring at colors. There's an actual technique to what's going on behind the scenes. And in order to become a really good photographer, are you comfortable? I didn't think you'd stay here. But now you're coming back? There's an actual technique to what's going on behind the scenes. In order to get really good at this, you need to understand what's going on inside of your camera. The art of photography is essentially just bending. Really? You're being really picky, dog. The art of photography is essentially just bending light and making it do what you want it to do. Oh my God. The force is just the physical manifestation of light that surrounds us all. It's everywhere. It's over there. It's over here. It's inside of us. Photographers are essentially Jedi. Guys, I've been ready for this. In essence, that's what everything in your photographic kit of tools is about, bending light, from your camera lenses to the inner workings of your camera. With that being said, there are a lot of key components that work together inside of your camera to make it work, but for the purposes of this video and to really simplify it down, I want you to focus on these three: your camera sensor, the shutter, and the iris. In a previous video, I've already kind of explained these things. This is gonna sound funny, but think of your camera as a gigantic mechanical eyeball. Your iris controls the aperture in your camera. The aperture is the pupil in your eye. The shutter is equivalent to your eyelids, and your camera sensor is equivalent to the retina in the back of your eye. In a previous video, I gave you a super watered down explanation for what an exposure is. Exposure is the amount of light that you let enter your camera, or it's just a fancy way of saying how light or dark your image is. Every time you take a picture, your shutter opens up. The sensor in the back of your camera is exposed. The light that enters your camera leaves an imprint on the sensor that is behind the shutter. By the time your shutter closes, that imprint is finished and being sent to the brain of your camera. That's what an exposure is. The amount of time your sensor is exposed. In the old days, your sensor was your film. So when you think about exposure, think about that. The amount of time that your sensor is exposed to the light. Today, we're gonna get into aperture. What does it do? Well, the pupil in your eye expands and contracts according to how dark or light it is outside. When it's dark outside, your pupil expands. This allows a lot more light in and allows you to see in the dark. If it's really bright outside, your pupil constricts. This doesn't allow as much light in your eye, and you can see in the bright daylight because of it. You wanna know what happens if too much light gets into your eye? Your retina literally fries. Well, the exact same thing happens to your camera sensor. If I were to take the lens off my camera right now, all you would see is white. That's because too much light is getting into it. There's no lens in front of it to distort the light before it gets to the sensor. That's what aperture is about. But aperture also has another purpose. It's called depth of field. Check out this test shot. This is shot with a 50mm 1.8. There's obviously a fire in the background of this video, but the aperture is so wide that you can't tell what that shape is. It's an extremely blurry background. Now compare that to this shot. You see the Joker sneaking up behind Batman? They're both in focus because the aperture is up really high. Well, down. Up? Oh my gosh, this always confused me. How can you tell these things in your camera? Well, that's what f-stops is about, and that's the setting you're gonna see in your camera. What is an f-stop? An f-stop is a unit of measure used to describe how wide or constricted your aperture is. An f1.2 is ultra wide. An f22 means your aperture is super constricted. So in essence, your aperture has two jobs. Number one, to constrict the amount of light that enters your camera or touches the sensor. Number two, it controls depth of field. And this is a really, really important cinematic tool. So with that, I'm Trevor. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer you, or shoot me a DM. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.